UAE's food and beverage market has been very vibrant, with the number of restaurants per million residents in Dubai alone ranking second only to Paris, according to KPMG. However, 53% of the Middle East restaurants had to halt in the last few months, and in-store sales dropped by 80% in April. Now, there's this one arm that we need to talk about, which is the aggregators. The online food delivery market globally is worth $123 billion, according to Statista, with 1.1 billion users. Last year, the market in MENA was worth more than $3 billion, with 2.7 million users. Despite the recent lockdown, consumers will not cease ordering their meals online, but the sector is currently ripe for another disruption. And perhaps this time it's going to be with healthier unit economics. So let's see what the future of aggregators is headed towards and where it's headed towards. And joining me today on Restart, we have Nader Amiri, who is the CEO of El Grocer, one of the earliest grocery e-commerce apps launched in the MENA region. We have Benjamin Mouflard from Chat Food, a commission-free ordering platform for restaurants, and Ian Ohan, the founder of Freedom Pizza and Big Dwarf FCE, an e-commerce food technology company. And we also have Sheikha Al-Mary joining us, who's the brains behind Mad Investments, which has Society Cafe and Lounge and Toplum under its portfolio. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm going to come to you now, Benjamin. Again, just you spoke about the whole business model, and I know there's been a sort of revolution amongst the various restaurants here. We've seen that more than 100 small and medium-sized restaurants and outlets in Dubai have come together to launch their own order booking and delivery apps, etc. I'd like to know what your take on this entire sort of revolution we've seen.
So I think to understand what happened, it's very important to come back a bit in time and to understand how it started, right? So if you come back like maybe 4 years back and you were a classic restaurant, on a normal evening, maybe you would serve like 20 customers that will come to your restaurant if you are a small one. But the thing is that your chef, your kitchen, could maybe prepare 10 more meals, right? They have the capacity to cook more. All your charge, all your costs were already covered with your 20 meals because you had built your business model. And then some smart guys came to you and tell you, listen, I have a way for you to get 10 more meals prepared. It's going to be on delivery. And for that, you are going to pay me 30% of the total of those meals. So at the time, it was a very, very fair and interesting model because you had already all your costs covered, and someone would come to you and tell you, I can give you pure extra business. So okay, you would pay 30%, but you will still have 70%. And if you remove like 30% of cost of food, you will still have a very good and healthy margin. On the other hand, the platform, the aggregators that build that model, built their business model with this 30% commission in mind. So they managed to invest a lot in marketing. They invested a lot in their logistics, in their resource, because they had this big amount of money to play with. But what happened quickly is that the 10 meals that you would get every night became 15, 20, 30. And the 20 people that you had in your restaurants became 15, 10, 5. And here your whole cost structure started to change. And you started to need to pay your fixed costs, your rent, all your salaries and so on, with the revenue that you were getting for delivery. But the problem here is that out of 100, you were only getting 70 because you had to give 30% to the full total. And then for many restaurants, it's not feasible economic because they started to, if they were making money on this 30%, it was great, but most of them started to lose money. Mm. And as it started to become like 30, 40, 50, 60% of their revenue, became very difficult. On the other hand, we hear a lot of comments about aggregators need to drop their fees, they need to drop their commission, but it's very difficult for them to do that because they have built their mind. So from one day to another, you cannot ask them to to reduce their revenue by 2 because they have built all their organization with this 30%.
Right. So Benjamin, from what you've said, it looks like at least the problem for the restaurants is the margin that there is. It's 25 to 35% is the average commission that is being charged by the aggregators in this region. But if you look at elsewhere in other countries, it's much lower than that. It's around the 15% or 10% mark, if I'm not wrong. So Ian, would you say that's the only problem with this sort of business model?
So there's many problems with the business model. They've barely solved one problem. They solved an important problem for the customer, but they were well financed by. So they solved a convenience problem for the restaurant customer, and it's frankly a problem the industry should have solved for itself, but didn't solve for it. So somebody else was allowed to do it. But they created a problem for their investors because they're not profitable and they don't have a road to profitability. Even at 30%, they're not profitable. They caused a problem for the restaurants, as Benjamin said, because 30% is not sustainable. They do not give the customers the data. And the only way they can become profitable is to raise prices to merchants and to restaurants. And the only way they can do that is to consolidate and get pricing control. And the only way to get pricing control is if governments allow you to do that. And so in the West, you're seeing a lot of antitrust discussions happening around consolidation. And if they're able to, in the UAE, there's less issues of antitrust and there's probably more of a monopoly situation. So they're able to drive their prices up, but then they're going to upset consumers and restaurants even more. And it creates opportunity for new merchants and new aggregators to come in, which is exactly what we're seeing now. So the idea of consolidation and price control seems quite elusive for them. And I'm not sure how long their investors are going to stick around and wait for them to try and solve it.
Now coming to you, Nader, do you feel attacked at all? I think
thankfully we're not in the restaurant industry. In the grocery world, it's very different. So yeah, I mean, in the grocery industry, we always, I mean, when we started El Grocer, we always knew what we're getting into. Grocery is a low margin category to start with. So I think Sheikha mentioned a very important point, which was diversifying the revenue, let's say, streams. So we always knew we can't just rely on the supermarkets and the stores that are anyway making a very thin margin. So it wouldn't be fair. I mean, it wouldn't be sustainable. Forget about fair. They will not be able to afford it because their margins are anyway very thin.
You did say that you came into business after the whole restaurant sector came into the aggregators business. So what are the mistakes that you learned from and you tried not to incorporate in your...
I think that the first point is that one is the revenue structure, revenue streams being from multiple revenue streams is very critical. It shouldn't be solely on one revenue stream, or let's say one or two revenue streams only. We looked at having a minimum of 3 to start with so that it's sustainable. The second thing was to look at the way we build the organization from an efficiency point of view. So again, we were not going after very big cost structures. We were always aiming to do it in a very lean way. Again, in groceries, it's really about building scale in terms of transactions, larger basket sizes, and doing extra services that retailers historically were not able to do.
Right. So during the entire lockdown period and during the pandemic, we saw that restaurant aggregators did report losses, despite everything that have been blamed up on them. How was it for you? How was it for El Grocer? Did you see a spike?
Oh yeah, I mean, I know the whole industry, if you look at the grocery retail industry in the UAE had around a 30 to 40% uplift. From our side, we had around during the peak lockdown period, we were 7 to 8 times more than what we were pre-COVID. It has stabilized now at around 3 to 4 times more than pre-COVID. So still at a quite higher level because people have gotten used to that kind of habit as well. By the estimates that we have, this has gone from maybe around 1% penetration to around 10% penetration. So still there's another 90% there. But I think the general mindset has shot up the industry from where it was.
Ian, well, right now we're talking about delivery. Well, delivery is one thing and data is a completely different thing. And at this point, especially in this region, there's not a lot being done in terms of using the customer data to probably customize and personalize as per their choices and options. So you think more needs to be done in understanding consumer behavior and preferences, especially moving into a new normal that we're talking about?
One of the big holes that our industry doesn't look at is the importance of that data. So if you use third-party applications, you don't get the customer data. So you are, and to Benjamin's point, one day they decide, oh well, they're our customer, and we want to do something else with them, or we want to, do one of your competitors, they'll pay us to help divert some of that traffic. So if you don't have customer data, you don't have a direct relationship with the customer. You can't provide services that are tailored to that customer and specific services. And you have no control of your food when it leaves just because the food left your door well, doesn't mean it arrived at the customer's door well. And, as a restaurateur and a tech company, and we do our own delivery, my job's not done until the customer gets their food and it's, the hot food is hot, the cold food is cold, my driver smiles at the door, and, and that customer is happy. That's when our job is done. It's not done when it leaves our restaurant. And I think that's part of the problem with third-party delivery is you're divorcing yourself from your customer, and that data is super critical to serve them better.
Do you think the idea of dining is changing? Because dining was supposed to be a social event with everything that's happening right now, especially in this region, we saw that there was a 30% capacity that was introduced in the beginning, which a lot of restaurants didn't really agree with. And then we saw a full lockdown, and then now again, it's coming back to 100% capacity, but with social distancing. So is this going to change the entire meaning and the purpose of why people go out and why people really avail the services from a restaurant?
I disagree actually with that thinking process, and I've seen otherwise within our outlets and our stores. Yes, people enjoyed the concept of convenience. Let me give you an example. Like, we are fully dine-in stores. We never did, takeaway or delivery, but with the COVID case and, the capacity, we had to become creative. And one of the things that we've done using chat food as our platform is allowing consumers to park and dine just in front of our store. I'm speaking about our Jumeirah-based store. So we had abundant parking, and we tried to create a more convenience product in line with these regulations, and also the picky customers, the ones who still are afraid and don't want to come down. If you ask my honest opinion, as a consumer, as a business owner, I think people want to go out, and the social factor will never be removed from eating, especially in Dubai. You have a lot of people who are expats who are, here on their own, and they cannot commit or live, with ordering in and staying at home. That's a depressive state to live, you would say. In our stores, we noticed that almost 50% of our revenues are back, and it shows that people are actually fed up of, fully delivery or fully cooking at home. They want to go out, they want to live. So the concept of new normal, I think it doesn't apply to how people dine or how they do business. It's more of a new normal of people being more conscious about their behaviors, about their spending, and about their habits in general.
I was actually just going to use the same word. People are obviously becoming more aware and more conscious. One thing that this region has been blamed for in the past is for overconsumption and being irresponsible in the way that we've been consuming everything. The biggest example from the F&B sector would be brunches, right? The brunch buffets that we have. And then we've also seen all of these, keyboard armchair warriors talking about #ban brunches and stuff like that. And that's just taken the more spirit right now during the pandemic, when people are suffering from, job losses, salary cuts, etc. Do you think that is something that will stay, or are people going to go back to their old habits of over-consuming, more wastage that we've seen in the region, etc.?
I think these two things are very separate. I wouldn't say that brunch is the best example to show overconsumption. It's a choice, to go on brunch. And I'm pretty sure that restaurants will not be overproducing more than, that's going to cost them and make money. It's more about, independently, how do you consume and how are you as a consumer? In terms of overspending, yes, it's majority of the people here live an exuberant lifestyle, and it's about how much a person can afford. There's so many people that post-COVID, throughout COVID, even today, spending silly money over internet shopping, and really knowing that they're not going to leave the house. So is that overconsumption? It's very personal, I would say. But as a government, yes, we're looking and we're working towards reducing consumption as a government rather than individuals and as a city.
If the oversupply we've seen, so the restaurant market and the F&B industry hasn't really been doing well for even before the pandemic because of the points you mentioned. It was an oversaturated market, etc. But now we're just seeing more closures altogether. So probably what I was going to ask Ian is, would you see this as perhaps an opportunity for recorrection of the market?
Yeah, like there's no doubt. I mean, the COVID-19, and we've never seen anything like it, but for me, it was a wildfire. So it indiscriminately burned through our our economy, and it took down the weak, right? Whether for good or for bad, they could have been great businesses, but to Sheikha's point, or if they didn't have the financing, the funding, if they were over leveraged, those are the things that really come to bite you when things are difficult, or you haven't created a point of differentiation and all those things. So, and with the wildfires comes new beginnings and new opportunity. And I think that's exactly what we'll be seeing. And the market was very oversaturated. I mean, the statistics show that. But I would slightly disagree with my fellow panelists. I've been here for 21 years, and I've never seen the restaurant industry damaged the way it's been damaged in the last 3 months. I've never seen so many closures. I've never seen, and this is anecdotal. We're in touch with our industry peers and things like that. As healthy as it might be, it's painful, and it's going to hurt. It's going to have implications on all this, the supply chain, on real estate, and so I have never seen in 21 years the food and beverage industry hit so hard by anything.
Do you all also feel that landlords have been sort of living in denial of this pandemic? Are they not responding well to it?
I would not like to comment on this point at this stage.
Let me talk to them for you, Sheikh. I'll take care of it.
Any of my landlords, are going to watch this, I'll reserve my comment until I'm done with my negotiations.
Let me take care of it for you, Sheikh. Don't worry.
Great. So I think we know what Sheikha's stand is on this, though. Well, so just coming to the conclusion of our discussion right now is we need to talk about solutions. We need to talk about what needs to be done. And I think tech has proven to be a key right now, and technology has been answering a lot of our questions, proving to be a solution for so many of our problems, and terms like digital transformation, artificial intelligence, which were just used as buzzwords, are actually being put into effect right now. So let's start with you, Nader. So where do you see the future of the whole aggregator business, or just this rough skeletal business model headed towards using technology?
I think definitely in terms of plays a very big role in terms of efficiency. So how technology can help operation from an operational point of view be very efficient, and especially in low margin industry. I think the other side of it, if you look, is how technology can help new customer behaviors that are emerging. I may have mentioned earlier again how digital and how e-commerce can help the physical. We know customer habits have changed. Yes, you want to still go out, but you want to probably spend less time out and less so on chores. But how can technology and the digital world help that shopping experience be faster, smoother, with the new customer behaviors in mind? I think it's going to be really about predicting and looking at customer behavior and adapting technology to meet those new customer behaviors, as opposed to trying to come up with new technologies of AI or blockchain or any of that. It's really about how to use existing technology to make the shopper journey, shopper experience, operations smoother and more effective.
It's just a tool, and it's not the solution or the miracle that will solve all the issues, right? It's what's behind. It's the restaurant owners. It's the passion that they put behind their brand. It's all the work that they do to build their business that really will help them to succeed and to surface there. You can have the best car possible, but you need to have a good driver in the car in the end. So I hope that this challenge and this crisis act a bit as a wake-up call for a lot of restaurants, but not only, like any business in general. About you cannot just rely only on technology and on third party. You need to put yourself at the front seat and lead this. So.
Right, and finally, Ian, I'm quite excited to know what your plans with Big Dwarf is going to be. I think you are going to come up with a lot of food technology solutions. So tell us more about your plans and how you aim to address the problems that are prevalent right now.
So for us, so I'd like to echo the sentiments of my fellow panelists, but I mean, definitely for us, technology is a tool, but technology is the backbone that allows us to manage our customers, because today customers are everywhere, and the companies that can meet them in the most places in the most efficient way, in the way that they want to live their lives, you know, which has changed and continues to change dramatically, those are the companies that are going to win, because you know, this is about delighting customers anywhere, and technology is a tool that allows you to do that. So our tool set is not just online ordering. We're pretty happy with it. You know, we've got a lot of new stuff on the online ordering, but it goes right through to the back end and everything, and right into our kitchen. So everything that we do is designed to delight the customer. And we've got a lot more features and things, and some of them are hidden to our customers, but they're things that we are using to help provide them with a better experience. So so technology is the backbone to do all these things. It's to meet the customer where they need to be. But I'm a bit of a traditionalist, and I still believe that, you know, the businesses that focus on the customer experience, delighting your customers, looking after your customers, I still believe that, you know, people want to be treated with respect. They want to be, you know, appreciated for the money that they're spending at your restaurant or your wherever it is. And I think the businesses that focus on that are the ones that are going to continue to thrive. And I think disruption for the sake of disruption is going to go away. And we will at some point, you know, technology is becoming more ubiquitous. It's becoming less of a, you know, it's not something that only the precious few have. It's going to become very ubiquitous. So the technology is not going to give you the edge. It's how you use it to delight your customers. That's what will give you the edge.